Bobby the Flying Donkey, written by David A. Miller, read by Cleo Haglund. "Woohoo!" Bobby shouted as he whooshed past all the other donkeys grazing on the green grass. All the other donkeys looked up at him as he flew and gave a very disappointed look. Things were not easy for Bobby. He was stranger than all the other donkeys. He was brown, just like them. He had huge teeth, just like them. He had 4 hoofs, just like them. But he had wings, and they didn't. And they didn't like that. Like I said, Bobby had wings, and he loved to whoosh here and whoosh there. So much so, it made all the other donkeys call him names and say mean things like, "Are you even a donkey?" Bobby always felt a little sad, but he just carried on whooshing around because it always cheered him up. Nobody knew why Bobby had wings. His mom didn't have wings, and his dad didn't have wings either. Sadly, he didn't know much else because both his parents were orphans. But Bobby didn't think too much about it because he could whoosh everywhere. And while everybody who saw Bobby always thought he was the strangest donkey, do you know what? Bobby could reach the highest hill and fly across miles and miles in seconds, where the other donkeys had to trot, and it took them ages to get wherever they wanted to go. One day, a few of the other donkeys were looking at him. Finally, one of them trotted up to Bobby and said, "Why do you fly instead of running?" Bobby didn't know how to answer them except by describing how fun it was. He said, "Wouldn't you if you could be there in seconds and there wasn't a place you couldn't reach?" They didn't reply to him, but just turned around and started eating again. Another day, as all the donkeys grazed on the grass, something flew over their heads. All they saw was a shadow of something that looked like a horse, but wasn't a horse because it was in the sky. They turned round and said to Bobby, "Stop messing around, Bobby." Bobby said, "I didn't do anything. Why do you always blame me?" Again, something flew over their heads. They quickly jumped around to check on Bobby. He said, "What? How could it be me? I'm right here." All the donkeys were so confused, but couldn't figure out what it could be. They glared into the sky, looking all around. Nope, they couldn't see a thing. Bobby was getting annoyed. "Now how could I be up there and down here at the same time?" he muttered. Just then, in the bush in front of him, he could see a big tail flicking left and right. All excited, he trotted over to the bush. Bobby's jaw dropped open. It was another flying donkey. Well, not quite. It didn't have big teeth, but it did have 4 hoofs and 2 wings. The real difference was that it was pink. Bobby said, "Who are you? What are you? Where did you come from?" The pink flying donkey said, "Wow, slow down, my friend. Firstly, my name is Rio, and I live just over that hill. If you squint your eyes, then lean forward just a bit, you might be able to see the mountain that is closest to my place. And that's a silly question. What am I? We are the same. We are both goats." "Haha, not really. Well, we don't have a special name, but I'm a donkey." Bobby smiled. "My name's Bobby, and I'm a donkey as well. That's what I tell all of them out there anyway, even though they say I'm not because I've got wings." Rio giggled. "We're just a little different. My granddad was a Pegasus, and my nan is a donkey. But, you know, love is love. I saw you the other day flying. You're so fast it took me forever to learn to fly, as nobody else in my group has wings," Rio said, except my granddad, but he was always off doing things. Bobby said, "Snap! Well, I don't know about the nan and granddad thing because I don't have either of those." Rio said, "I don't mind sharing. My granddad's funny, but don't stand behind him. He does like to toot from his behind sometimes." Both donkeys laughed so loud that all of Bobby's group came over to investigate, and what did they see? The 2 winged donkeys rolling around the grass with laughter. Bobby's group said, "Oh no, another weird donkey." Rio stood up and said, "How do we know you're not the ones who are weird? I can fly. I can reach the highest hills and the deepest valleys. It takes me seconds to do what takes you ages to do." And he turned to Bobby and gave a wink. The other donkeys all huffed at Rio, turned around and trotted off. Bobby and Rio became best friends from then on. So now, one day Bobby and Rio were soaring through the air, crisscrossing each other and doing loop-de-loops and spins, when in the distance they both saw something that looked like them, but had a twinkle to it. So the 2 raced off in that direction. When they got there, nothing was there. So they landed on the hill confused, still looking around them. Rio turned to Bobby and they both shrugged their shoulders. They had a little nibble on the grass, then whoosh, something flew over them. They looked around but couldn't see anything at all. They both felt a little cross by now, though, as they knew they saw something. Whoosh! There it was again. This time Bobby thought he saw something go behind the bush behind them, so he signaled to Rio. They both trotted over to the bush. To their surprise, they saw a donkey with 4 hoofs and big wings. It had a brown coat and a long pink horn. "Who are you? What are you? Where did you come from?" Bobby said. With a huge grin, the stranger said, "My name is Bruno. I'm a donkey." "That's a strange question. I live at the end of the river that way, between those 2 mountains." Bobby said, "But you have—" "Yeah, I've got big teeth, I know," Bruno said. "No," Rio said. "I think he's talking about your—" "Oh, my brown coat." "Yeah." "Nope," said Bobby. "I was about to say, I know what you're talking about, my wings." "Nope," Rio said. Bruno looked a little confused. "A horn! You have a horn," Rio said. Bruno laughed and said, "Oh yeah, I forget that's there. I've always had one." Just then, a large shadow came over them. It was Rio's granddad. "There you are," he said. "I've been looking for you everywhere." "Isn't this nice?" he went on to say. "Aren't you going to introduce me to your friends, Rio?" They all grinned. Rio said, "This is Bobby. He's a donkey, and he has a brown coat. This is Bruno. He is a donkey, and he has a pink horn." "Well, you all look like donkeys to me," said Rio's granddad. "We have to go, Rio. Your grandma has got dinner ready." As Rio turned to leave, he said to Bobby and Bruno, "Let's meet up tomorrow and do some whooshing." "Sounds great," they both said. And the next day, they had a great day flying together. The end.
Abia aștepți următoarea poveste? Abonează-te la canalul de YouTube Totul este posibil pentru a primi o notificare când publicăm noile episoade. Noapte bună, copii!